Just realize that you may not like what they're saying, but the child is trying their best in their own way to communicate something they may not understand. But if you've done your job to communicate with your child and your child knows, hey, there's some stranger danger stuff. Hey, mom, there's this guy saying this weird stuff. They should know that they can come and show you those things and be like, I don't know what's happening here. And you'll be like, hey, thank you, let me check. Heh, I'll be right back. The kid's not in trouble. The kid did the right thing. They need to know that you got their back. They need to know that you're going to take them seriously. And let's pretend that nothing's wrong. Let's pretend that some spammer came in with some random things that aren't harmful, and the kid's like, hey, something's weird here. Please still encourage that child that they did the right thing. Don't just be like, oh yeah, that's nothing. Please don't just brush it off. Again, this is not judgment. I know that everybody's busy, but I'm saying these little things really matter because they're training the kids. The kids are gonna be like, oh, that's no big deal. Okay, never mind. They may not come to you next time. If you're like, oh, okay, well, that's some spam. I'm going to block them. Hey, thank you for letting me know you did the right thing. You're awesome, man. Good job. That's why I trust you. You know what I mean? If you reinforce those beliefs, not only does the kid realize, oh, okay, I'm not in trouble, first of all, and I'm doing the right thing by doing this, but also, hey, this parent or caretaker can filter this for me. I don't have to try to figure this out and be confused by this. I can go rely on this caretaker or parent to help me. And if it's cool, it's cool, and I get my phone back and I did the right thing. And if it's not cool, they're going to protect me. That type of dynamic and communication is so important. Again, I'm not a parent. I don't give parenting advice, but I have heard from way too many children and survivors that something started that was off and they tried to report it and they were brushed off. And I know if I sound extreme, it's because I work in this industry and I know too much and I see too much and I'm trying to prevent more kids from experiencing it. But way too many survivors, probably everyone that I've talked to, tried to report something at some point and it was brushed off or not taken seriously or disregarded, and then it continued and often got worse. So I'm begging you guys, listen, take them seriously, and take appropriate action.
Yeah, I want to really second what Kim just said. Kim had an extraordinary upbringing. And ironically, I had a completely inverse upbringing to Kim in Switzerland. And I don't want to tonight because I believe that's a session all in its own. I mean, there's some incredible stories here, but the fact is, Kim today is, and I don't mean this in a negative way, Kim, and I think you can actually explain it your way, but is also a victim of how her life began, just as I am myself. And so one of the things I find fascinating is when you rob kids of innocence, this is where I'm going, Kim, both of us had our innocence just yanked from us at a very young age. And it did have a ramification. It affected us literally for the rest of our life. One of the reasons Kim and I became friends was over this, actually. It was actually when we mutually found out how we had the weirdest upbringings and we basically started connecting war stories with each other. I suddenly realized the lack of innocence, when that is taken from you as a kid, that's probably the most profound thing that you can't take back. So for me, going back to, a parent saying, well, I don't want to get involved after seeing what's happened to Kim, what's happened to me, what's happened to all these kids, what's happened to the world. Yeah, we got to get involved. It's not even optional,
Yep.
in my opinion.
Yep. No, I agree. I'd rather someone be, I know this should be taken with a grain of salt. I'd rather someone be too extreme or too protective when it comes to protecting children than to be like, oh no, I can't be a helicopter parent. I'm nothing. Now, obviously, I prefer balance and I recommend balance. There is a solution in the middle ground. But if I had to pick one extreme, and I'm not saying you do, I'd rather parents be overly aware and overly protective than to just assume like, oh no, my kid's got this. Someone likened it one time, and I think this is such a good analogy. Giving your kid unlimited, unsupervised access to the internet is like giving your child a loaded weapon. Just being like, here you go, have fun. There needs to be training, there needs to be education around the power that this device holds, both in terms of accessing endless information, and you can learn pretty much anything on the just by consuming this free information in the palm of your hands. Also, there's a lot of risks that they should be aware of.
For the parents listening to us tonight, I'm going to try to be very diplomatic how I just explain this. Everyone in America probably is unaware of this, but the statistics have changed on people taking care of their sexual desires and needs by themselves. So I'm hoping I'm describing this. This is both men and women. Now, back in the 80s, it was average for a man maybe to say, well, I've done that once during the day. But now we're in a situation where we have young kids doing it 3, 4, 5 times a day. On average, they're spending 3 to 5 hours looking at stuff to auto turn them on and, autoerotica and all of that. And what is so amazing is that we are really not talking about it. We're just kind of brushing it under the rug. But there's a complete change in the way all of us experience each other. There's a kind of an objectifying reality that we are diminishing both sexes, and we've become literally images on screens, and we're learning how to get turned on by those images. But then that takes away from our dialogue with each other. And it's so telling that when was the last time you heard the media or heard any of these rocking scientists that come on and philosophers really say, we really completely changed. In the last 30 years, we've changed the way we do intimacy. And then we have the declining birth rate. Not the fact that we are not making love as much. Well, in Western culture, we're not. That is absolutely true. But the truth is, we also have a declining sperm count in males. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that if people are constantly at it and wanting everything, like hedonism, like the Roman Empire, there will be a ramification and a consequence. So the predators, in my opinion, are as much a byproduct of us not wanting to be honest with how bad the real problem is. And the real problem is it's affecting millions of us, and none of us are really willing to come clean. If a kid is wasting that amount of time in doing something that's between them, a screen, and themselves, and they're having a relationship with that screen that is so intense, then I'm going to ask just one question of every parent listening to me tonight. How much of life are they actually missing out on? How much learning could they do in life? How much experiences are they actually not experiencing because they're actually going to a site that is owned by a corporation that's going to show them titillating information that then will make the person spend an incredible amount of time and actually be changing the very way they do relationships for the rest of their life. And yet somehow we've made that okay.